Crocoin is up 10.5% year to date and also down 12% this past week alone, indicating that in the past 7 days, this altcoin has given up over half of its yearly gains. Now, despite the lagging price action, there's actually been a lot of very good fundamental news for this project as of late, and I'm beginning to see a disconnect between the actual fundamentals of Crocoin and the price action itself. Now, we also got to consider the fact Crocoin is up over 10.5% year to date, but also down 12% this past week alone, indicating that in the past 7 days, this altcoin has given up over half of its 2023 gains. Now, despite the price action of this project, there has been a ton of bullish news coming out for Crocoin. In fact, it broke 2 records this past week alone that we are going to discuss in today's video. And I am beginning to see a major disconnect between the fundamentals of this project and the price action, which leads me to believe that when the crypto market does flip bullish once again, there is going to be a lot of room for Crocoin to run. So in this video, we're going to break down 3 reasons why I am still bullish on Crocoin, and reason number 1 has to do with the Cronos chain, which has recently made its way back into the top 10 blockchains in terms of total value locked, with over $361 million circulating. Now, the growth of the Cronos chain and the adoption of Crocoin has kind of always been a bonus for me personally, as I was invested in Crocoin before the Cronos chain even launched. In fact, it launched at a pretty crappy time in my opinion back in November of 2021, which did mark the local top for Bitcoin and pretty much was the end of the previous bull run. Now, since then, Cronos has been a top blockchain, just recently getting kicked out of the top 10 earlier this year, and it has now officially reclaimed that spot in the top 10. And if we actually take a look at the TVL on Cronos and the price of Crocoin itself, you're going to see that a lot of the decline here in the Cronos chain does correlate with the actual price of Crocoin, as the TVL denominated in USD is also dependent on the price of the native blockchain token. So we can see here that in November, when we saw that FUD that Crypto.com was insolvent, the price of Crocoin went down from about 12 cents to 5 cents. And similarly, the total value locked on Cronos went down from about 850 mil down to about 430 mil, give or take. So if we actually go ahead and denominate the TVL of Cronos based in CRO, we can see that from a peak of over 10 billion CRO, there's currently about 5.3 billion, 5.7 billion actually circulating on this chain, which indicates there has been about a 50% decline in the amount of CRO that is being used on Cronos. And I wanted to start off talking about this chain because I actually think it is probably the weakest reason to be bullish on Crocoin of the 3 in my opinion. And that's because if we actually take a look at the TVL in terms of the 1 month chain, Cronos has not made its way back into the top 10 because it grew, but rather because its competition in terms of Phantom actually declined 25% this previous month, and it's still only behind Cronos by about 11 million in terms of TVL. So this blockchain can easily still fall back out of the top 10. However, the Cronos team has been making some big moves lately to try and keep it in the top 10, most recently discussing their collaboration with Amazon Web Services startup program, and they're effectively using this to boost the development and growth on the Cronos chain and attract new developers looking to build DeFi applications, blockchain games, and just improve the Cronos chain ecosystem as a whole. So effectively, through this collaboration, startups are going to leverage AWS infrastructure and get access to AWS resources and Cronos Labs expertise in blockchain development. And I believe that a big reason the Cronos team has struck this collaboration is in an attempt to re-accelerate growth on the blockchain after TVL and transactions have remained pretty much stagnant since the start of 2023. So we already took a look at the TVL chart here, and you can see that for the most part it has been pretty flat since the year began. So we can see that in January of this year it was sitting at about 390 mil in TVL, now down to about 361 mil. So really just slowly bleeding since the year has began. And unfortunately, transactions do not look any better, averaging about 50,000 transactions, now recently dipping into like the mid to low 40,000 transaction area. And I'm mentioning this right off the bat because although I am bullish on CRO coin, I'm not here to sugarcoat things and lie to you guys. The Cronos chain has been pretty stagnant since the year began, but one very important thing I discussed in this Twitter thread is given the effectiveness of Crypto.com to advertise and strike major partnerships, I believe that raising awareness towards their work with AWS could drive more developers to explore the Cronos chain as an option for their dApps. We can also see here in terms of unique addresses that is pretty much tapered off, and it's kind of anywhere between like 500 to 300 new daily addresses per day. Now let's compare the transactions on Cronos here to transactions on something like BNB and like Polygon, and you can see why there is a lot of room for Cronos to catch up to its competition, as the BNB chain is currently sitting in 3rd place in terms of TVL, and Polygon, I believe, is currently sitting in 5th or 6th place. So it's kind of important to look at these blockchains, because if we do want Cronos to make its way back into the top 10 and also further up this list, we have to look at who it's competing with here. So Cronos, considering it's doing about, give or take, 50,000 transactions per day and kind of still tapering off at the moment, we currently have the BNB chain averaging anywhere from about 3.5 transactions per day. We can see here that on some spikes it goes up to about 5 million transactions per day. And then take a look at Polygon here, which actually recently has fallen as well from about 2.5 million transactions down to about 2 million transactions. But if we compare the transactions on these chains to the 35 to 50,000 transactions on Cronos, you can see here that it is well behind if it does actually want to be a serious contender for a top 5 blockchain spot. Now, honestly, the Cronos chain, in my opinion, has always been a bonus for the growth of CRO coin. In fact, I was invested in this altcoin before the Cronos chain had even officially launched. And the main blockchain that I look at when it comes to CRO is the Crypto.org chain, which recently passed a record of having over 6 billion CRO delegated to this chain. So taking a look at Yummy Capital here, we can see that with a current circulating supply of 26 billion, there is about 6 billion CRO locked up on this chain, indicating that 23% of CRO in circulation is currently out of the float and locked up. And when I say locked up, I say this because when you actually delegate your CRO to the Crypto.org chain, if you do want to unlock it, you have to go through a 28-day unbonding period before this CRO ends up back in your wallet. This indicates two things to me. The first thing it indicates is that anybody actually locking up their CRO on this chain is most likely in it for the long term. Crypto is very volatile, and if you are looking to trade this project, you are not locking it up here for rewards where it is subject to a 4-week waiting period for you to actually sell it. And B, because it does have this lockup period, it effectively means that this CRO is out of the circulating supply while it is locked up here earning rewards. And speaking of rewards, I mean, they are very impressive, coming in at a double-digit yield of 10.03%. So if I should go ahead over to staking rewards and take a look at their website, you're going to notice that if we take a look at the top 10 chains, that this is a very competitive yield. Right now we have Ether at 7.56%. This does have to do a lot with the actual meme coin frenzy that has been going on. Usually Ether chills in between 4.5% to 5% in terms of that yield. Cardano coming in at 3.18%, Solana at 6.47%, BNB chain at 2.6%, Avalanche with a competitive yield at 7.69%, Polygon at 5%, Polkadot actually smoking Cronos here with a 15% yield, as well as Atom with a 21% yield. However, you can see that for the most part, a 10% yield on CRO coin is very competitive with a lot of top blockchains out there. And that's why I do believe this blockchain has continued to grow here, even despite the Cronos chain actually flatlining. I remember at some point last year that, or maybe it was 2021, but I remember seeing like 4 billion CRO delegated on this chain at one point or another, and we are now up to 6 billion. Now, interestingly enough, it shows on Yummy Capital that on May 3rd, this had about 5.58 billion CRO delegated, and that is currently now up to 6 billion, which would indicate that in the past 10 days, this chain has seen about a 10% increase in the amount of CRO locked up. And I'm not sure if this is actually accurate, because that's a pretty steep increase after increasing pretty steadily since the year began anyways, and we've been watching this. However, we can verify right here on the Crypto.org Explorer that yes, there are now over 6 billion CRO locked on this chain. That is a very big record for the Crypto.org chain, as over 23% of the circulating supply is out of the float. And in my opinion, that is much more important for the tokenomics and for the long-term holder base of CRO coin. Now, the third and final reason that I am still bullish on CRO coin has to do with the Crypto.com Visa program. And it was recently revealed in an AMA with the Crypto.com CEO that the Visa cards will be buffed again in the future. So in the AMA, Chris Marzalek says you can count on us to adjust the benefits or add new benefits as the market recovers. He talks about how the Crypto.com Visa rewards are sustained by transaction fees on the platform, and that's why during the bear market they had to actually nerf the fees in line with the lower transaction revenue the company was generating. This is why, as the bull market does resume once again and they expect to onboard the next wave of crypto users, that it will be sustainable for Crypto.com to once again buff these rewards. And that is only good for CRO coin, in my opinion, as this is a massive customer acquisition tool for Crypto.com, and it forces users to lock up CRO for full benefits. So we can actually see here, taking a look at the Crypto.com Visa, that there are 5 tiers. Tier number 1 is free. Tier number 2 is worth $400 USD with 1% cash back. And it's worth noting that when you actually see the dollar value of this cards, this is the amount of CRO you have to lock up to receive these cards. So to get the Ruby Steel card, which offers 1% cash back, you have to lock up 400 USD worth of CRO. The Royal Indigo and Jade Green, you have to lock up 4,000 USD worth of CRO. For the Frosted Rose Gold and Icy White, you have to lock up 40,000 USD worth of CRO. And the Obsidian Black here, the big boy, you got to lock up 400,000 USD worth of CRO. And this comes here for 1%, 2%, 3%, and 5% cash back respectively. Now, here's the thing when it comes to these visas, is to actually obtain the visa, you do have to lock up your CRO for a 180-day or 6-month period. Now, what happens after this 6-month period is done? Technically, yes, you can actually unlock this CRO and you can still keep the visa, but boom, look at what happens to your benefits. You lose all cash back on the Ruby Steel and Royal Indigo and Jade Green. The Frosted Rose Gold and Icy White goes from 3% cash back to 1%, and the Obsidian Black goes from 5% down to 2%. So we can see here that you are heavily incentivized to not only lock up your CRO for this 6-month period, but also keep it locked up on the platform to continue getting these juicy cashback rewards from the Visa. And one other thing I do frequently mention when it comes to the Visa program that I think is pretty underrated is the fact that the cashback is denominated in CRO and not US dollars. So this means effectively that, let's say I was to use the Royal Indigo card here and go ahead and get my 2% cash back in CRO while it is at 6.5 cents, and then CRO wants to double up to 13 cents. That effectively means that I have just turned this 2% cash back into 4% cash back. So you can see here that the numbers on the surface do actually depend on the price action of CRO, and I have to believe that if you are buying this Visa, you believe that CRO coin is going to go up in the future, which does also mean technically that if you wait to actually cash it out to USD or whatever your fiat currency is, that your cashback will also be increased as the price of the project does go up. So there you have it. That is 3 reasons why I am still bullish on CRO coin despite the lagging price action this year. And I do want to take a quick look at the charts here to wrap things up, as I actually do think it is coming back at a very interesting buying zone at that 5-cent level. We spoke about this 5-cent level at late last year as well as early this year as a potential very big trading range for CRO coin. The first time here back in November of last year that it did hit 5 cents, it went on a nice 38% rally all the way up to about just under 7.5 cents here, more or less. And then once again here, we can see that it did hit this level of 5 cents right on the new year at January 1st, and it rallied at one point about 70% up to about 9.5 cents before pulling back. So 5.5 cents has been a very interesting buy zone for CRO coin. Once again, we are getting pretty close to there after putting in a lot of daily red candles here, and that is something I will be keeping my eye on when it does come to the price action of CRO in the near term. So on that note, I hope you did enjoy the content in today's video. You know what to do. If you made it all the way to the end, you are an absolute champion. Let me know in the YouTube comments down below and claim that champion status. I hope you are all having an amazing Friday. I wish you all an amazing weekend ahead, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace out for now.